Mr. Elder, and give him the floor. Your life.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Jimmy. Thank you again. Appreciate you doing that. I'm Bill Elder. I want to say thank you for your service. It is a big deal. Thanks. And everybody like you, and I would agree, Mark is the man. And so, support Mark. I came back again tonight. I'll tell you a little bit about me. Anybody that wasn't here before, raise your hand. You weren't? Okay, good. I'll start from the beginning. I'm Bill Elder.
Time.
I was born. No.
In other words, we gave him a hard time.
You gave me a difficult time, but that's all right. We moved to Colorado Springs when I was 11. I grew up here. I raised my kids here. My grandkids are being raised here. I started at the Sheriff's Office in 1978. Spent 20 years there. I have 23 plus years in law enforcement. And in 1998, I decided I needed to do something different, and I went into real estate. Did that until 2010. Through our prolonged depression, I decided I needed to do something to make a little more money, go back into law enforcement, and I'm currently the Deputy Chief of Police in Fountain. Decided about a year ago that I needed to try and do something at the Sheriff's Office to try and take it in a new direction, take it in a more regional direction, and we started to put together a platform that talks about regional collaboration and cooperation. There's a lot of wasted peripheral services in law enforcement today. We have, in this area, we have 4 major agencies and about 6 total law enforcement agencies, and everybody does the same thing in each agency when it comes to communications, training, evidence, and a few others. And we all do those things independently. And I believe that if we combine them and we pull our resources together, we can do that considerably less expensive. Considerably. We believe we might be able to save $4 to $5 million a year. So it's a significant savings. We can shift some of these cost centers to public-private partnerships. We're trying to put together one right now on a training center. And I talked a little bit about that before. We're working on a partnership with 911 to combine our comm centers, where 911 can pay for 40% of our communications personnel. We think that if we put together some of these support services, we can make our agencies more efficient, we can work together more often, and we can provide a much better service to our community. And that's what it's about. It's about your money and my money being spent wisely and not just being spent. And so that's what we want to try. My experience in law enforcement, I started as a dispatcher in 1978. I went on patrol in 79, I'm sorry. I went to the police academy 6 months later. Let me tell you how that experience went. That was a treat. I was a dispatcher, and I typed up about a paragraph-long memo and said I want to go on patrol. And the patrol captain calls me up and he says, you really think you can do this? And I said, yeah. He says, go back and get the money from Marie, was her name, and she gave me a check for $400. I went out and bought uniforms and my gun, and I showed up the next Monday and had on my brand new uniform and a gun, and he gives me, my sergeant gives me a badge. He put it on my shirt and he says, all right, you're going to ride with these corporals. So I spent 2 days with one corporal, 2 days with another corporal, 2 days with a third one, and I walked in the next week and he says, here's your keys, you did a great job, you're now in District 1. And I said, great, where's District 1? And do I get to shoot my gun sometime? And that was the extent of my training. I went to the academy, that was March of '79. I went to the academy in September. And so in that 6-month period, that was the extent of my training. But I learned a lot. And over the next 20 years, I spent a considerable amount of time learning patrol, learning investigations. I spent 5 years as a criminal investigator, working homicides, crimes against persons, crimes against property. And then I promoted to sergeant, went back to patrol, spent some time managing the Sheriff's Office Communications Center. That's why I can tell you we can do things cheaper and better together than we do independently. And then I spent the last 4.5 years as a commander in Metro Narcotics. We've had this discussion already. I'm not going to bring that up again. That didn't go so well last time. For those of you that weren't here, I asked a dumb question and got an answer that shocked me. So, you know, I really enjoyed my career there, but it was just time to do something different. And frankly, I needed the opportunity. I needed a chance to step out and learn what it's like in the real world where all of you live, to go out and actually earn a living not being part of government and pay taxes and pay employment taxes and pay employees. And, you know, we opened a private investigations business for a while, and we had a number of employees. And, to raise my kids on something other than the government doles was a very significant amount of time in my life. And, you know, I knew Chet for a long time back then. Our kids kind of grew up together playing soccer, and we learned a whole different way to live back then. So I'm bringing a different perspective, I think, to this job than I would have had I stayed in law enforcement the entire time. And I'm bringing a perspective of, in business, you don't do things just because you've got money. You do things because it makes sense. And that's kind of the perspective we're headed to.